Wednesday, Revealing Truth Ministries, family and friends. Welcome to this morning's Deeper Dive. The staff is here in the building with you. We're here with you. We appreciate you being here. The Deeper Dive gives us the opportunity to attend to the things that God has said to us as we've determined to be people who are most blessed. We're living a most blessed life.
Try it again. Be ready when you try it again. Give up again. Oh, no. I'm moving on. You can't stop me now. Oh, you can't stop me now. If you can't block me and the devil thought he had me, what makes you think that you could ever stop me? Reflection in the mirror, I'm talking to you. Yeah. I've got my feet set on the ground. There's no more turning back now. 'Cause you can't stop me now. You can't stop me now, no. You can't stop me now. Yeah. Hey. Said it before, you try it again. Be ready when you try it again. Give up again, no. I'm moving on. Yeah, sometimes the enemy could be the enemy. By what I say, think, do, choose to be the end of me. Just pause, 'cause his way is better than my way. No time to quit, there's no reason to delay. So pick up the pace and run your race. If God says go, then why wait? You can't stay in the same place. Gotta move. Let God call the plays. That's how you make sure you never lose. You can't stop me. There's no more holding me down. You can't keep me from being who I'm meant to be. You can't stop me. There's no more holding me down. You can't keep me from being who I'm meant to be. Yeah.
Pastor Brian, our senior pastor, is here in the building with us. Good morning, Pastor Brian.
Hey, Pastor Lamar.
Yeah. We're here to take a deeper dive from Sunday's message. And as we are still in our Act Now series, Sunday's message titled One Look Away.
Yeah.
One Look Away. And I love how the last few weeks we've been just getting back to, reattacking the fundamentals, just revisiting, representing fundamentals of our faith, things that we've heard about, talked about before, but we've progressed.
Yeah.
And it's time to shed some new light on some things, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's what we're here to do. And with that, I'm here. Let's just dive right in. In our pre-talk, we're rehashing the importance of us, even in this season, bringing more truth, more light, more clarity to a small 3-letter word that is well known within Christian circles.
Yeah.
But if we look at the way that we've been living from our previous understanding, we see that we need to revisit this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the idea of sin.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I'm just, as I listen to you, what I'm gaining more understanding of is, like, you can't even, I'll say it like this. In the past, we've done such a great job was done on establishing an idea of what it is that now you can't even say the word without providing the context for
Absolutely.
people to hear it correctly.
Absolutely. And, I think it's something that, for one, believers shouldn't run from.
Got it.
I think that when you understand, that God said he whom he loves, he chastens. When you understand that you were created in his image, then there's some things that you should want to live aware of, which is, man, when am I missing the mark, or when am I hitting the mark of the image I should be reflecting?
Right.
And when you use that word sin, you got to realize that is just saying, hey, there is a mark, which is beautiful. That, for most people, they're living below their capabilities, because no one has ever said that they had some potential, that they had something that they could achieve. And when you meet God, like, God's like, no, he's like one of the first people, the purest place to be like, no, you're greater than.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you were created in my image. And to me, like, okay, we're owning that part also means that I am excited about knowing how I'm doing in reflecting the image I was created in. Like, give me a progress report. Give me an update, God.
Right.
And what is so awesome is he says, I'm a loving father. So that even in those updates, even in those progress reports, it's not to condemn you, it's not to shame you. God, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I could. But God doesn't even carry those emotions. He can't. What he does cannot grow that emotion within you.
Got it.
Like, God, I know one of the things I say all the time, that if you had a conversation with God and you leave the conversation feeling less than or broken down, you need to go back, because you weren't talking to God.
Got it.
Right? That is not how our Father loves us. And so, for one, let's just let's not run from what we should be embracing.
Got it.
Right?
Got it. On Sunday, a statement was made to the effect that, like, sin shouldn't be the thing that separates us from God, but in our lives, in a Christian life, it's the thing that reminds us of our need for Jesus, right? And when you talk about how identity sets the standard, knowing that we're made in this image sets the standard, then I need the image giver, the standard setter, to walk me through even the times in my life that I missed the mark, or if I'm living beneath the mark.
And I would say yes. And I'm gonna say a very strong statement to this, and it's, we can't expect for God to amplify things that don't have clarity, right? And so it's like we want God to grow us, we want God to amplify our lives, we want God to take us to new heights, and God's like, okay, I'm with that. Understand that God's not the author of confusion. So if he's in it, there's clarity that comes with it. And so that's why it's like, hey, we have to take this this subject of sin and bring clarity to it. Because truth of the matter is, there's, in most cases, you have people on one or other side. It doesn't matter, or it matters too much. And so it's like, but if you're looking to grow a community, looking to grow something, it's a subject that you have to have like a foundation of, this is where we stand.
Right.
And what I love is when you look at it, you got to realize it's multifaceted. Right. That you cannot look at sin and come away with one definition. It's multifaceted.
Right.
Its implications are various.
Yeah.
And I would say, both groups were right. That, hey, sin in a spiritual sense, right? It used to cause a separation from God, right? In a spiritual sense, that, hey, man, of course, look at the Old Covenant, look at the Old Testament. Like, no, without a doubt, that sin caused separation from God spiritually. Now, we know now that Jesus, right, has paid that cost, paid the penalty for that sin from a spiritual standpoint.
Got it.
Right?
Right.
That spiritually, man, you ask for forgiveness, you are restored as righteous. You're righteous through faith, not through your acts. You're justified through faith, not through your acts. And God sees you as righteous by faith through the blood of Jesus. So through repentance, spiritually, you keep this circle rolling. All right, that's spiritually. Now we got to talk physically.
Got it. Right.
Because in the natural, back to the other camp, sin can put you in jail, right?
Got it. Right.
Like
Right.
you could be in jail with a full thriving relationship with God. Right? Like you can be in timeout. You can get a parking ticket. You
Right.
can get
You can get fired.
You can get fired
Loving Jesus.
and still have a full thriving relationship with God.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. No. But then I would say the third piece, understand that we're three parts being spirit, soul, and body.
Yeah.
I would say the soul part is what has been suffering because of not appropriating the effects of sin.
Got it. Right.
That,
So I want to digest what's been said so far. We've grown past the point of saying that sin, we can't just be dismissive of it, like it doesn't matter. And even with the proper lens, when we look through the New Testament, Paul, they didn't live like it didn't matter.
exactly.
Right? And we can't be so legalistic in thinking that sin is bigger than Jesus.
No. Yep.
So we're finding a balance, confessing, really embracing that even as I evaluate my life, I can see the effects of missing the mark. And what you're leading us into right now is, I don't know if we can say for this generation, but we're seeing that the biggest mark that sin has made now is in a person's soul, in your mind, in your thinking.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I'm saying this because for me, the reason why we have to talk about it is because I've seen a lot of believers turn to self-effort for spiritual problems.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, how do I end up here? Well, you end up there by not appropriating our understanding that sin is multifaceted. So you're dealing with anxiety, and you're like, man, why am I dealing with this anxiety? Why am I dealing with this fear of the unknown when I'm a person of faith? Well, that's because one of the effects of sin is an attack on your mind.
Yeah.
Right? That you have a relationship with God, but your mind is now under attack due to what you've exposed yourself to, that God's like, I don't want you exposed to that. Right? And I tell people, and I don't mean to frighten people because, but we gotta move forward.
Gotta tell
right?
the truth.
To me, it's not frightening.
Right.
To me, it's awareness.
Right.
And that's why I use myself as an example on Sunday. Like, no one's above this. Like, no one's above this. That if you, that's horrible. I was gonna say, if you commit the crime, you do the time. You know what I'm saying? No one's, no one's above this, right? And but you don't want to live unaware, and that's the heart of it, right? That what I'm saying is that, and I'll use Adam and Eve because it's just famously known, and everybody knows that's what introduced sin into this world. Is essentially they ate the fruit. They didn't know that eating the fruit was going to bring condemnation, shame, guilt. Like they didn't know that the implications of the act had mental, soulish effects. That act opened up these effects and this attack on my mind.
Got it.
And that's the part to where my heart breaks for believers now, because we've created this general subject of sin, and we're only speaking of it really from a spiritual sense to say, no, it didn't separate you from God. And then they're trying to figure out, then why is my mind under constant attack? Although I have this connection with God. It's because 20% of the time you're you're connecting with God, 30% of the time you're exposing yourself to a mental warfare.
Yeah.
And that is what's happening. I know you're saying, oh no, all I did, and I hate to step on toes, but it is what it is. But all I did, here we go. Pastor Brian's about to do it, but you got to know where you at. All I did was go over there. All I did was watch this. All I did was talk to him. And there's implications for that exposure.
Yeah.
That, no, it's not just that. Like Adam and Eve didn't say, oh, the apple was, the fruit wasn't wrapped and said, you eat this, and condemnation, shame, guilt, and all that's coming.
It didn't come with a warning label.
It didn't come with the warning label.
Yeah.
But what we do know is we are no longer living according to the flesh, that we live according to the Spirit. And so living according to the Spirit lets me know that everything I do carries some type of spiritual implication.
Got it.
That there is, you follow what I'm saying?
So in the we've said before, we've heard it said that sin makes cowards of men. Sin makes us coward, which means to, well, you know, one way of thinking about that is sin makes you afraid to come to God or afraid to receive what he said or think you're not worthy. But to be coward also means to draw back. And I can see how that relates to what's being said right now. Like, you know, your relationship wasn't severed, but in your mind, how did your actions impact your thinking? Whether it is you're thinking about yourself, your identity, is you're thinking about his graciousness, his mercy towards you, your worthiness to receive. Like, how has it impacted your mind? You said sin is multifaceted, meaning that its effects are on many levels. And the three levels that we're talking about right now: spiritual, soulish, and physical. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. You know, in how we as believers, we cannot continue to live without accountability.
Yeah.
You know, and this starts to get like, this may sound funny, but then this is where I start getting a little attitude-ish, because I'm like, man, don't talk about my God like that. Like, he's as good and even better than what I even believe him to be. He's as good as even better. Like, God is a good God. And I'm saying that to say, like, I get attitude-ish because then people are like, well, then what's going on with that person of faith? And I'm like, they're not being honest with you. Like, they're not being honest. Like, they are literally not being transparent about what they're dealing with, and the reason that they are reflecting God as though he's not as good as what we know him to be. You know, they're not being transparent. If they were being transparent, you would be like, oh, I get it, right? That, man, you should be grateful considering what you're embracing and the fact you have any peace. Like that, there's evidence that there's a God.
Yeah.
You know that.
So I want to go here, Pastor Brian. What about the idea that grace gets me off? Like, isn't that what a lot of people think today? We've heard the grace message. I know I've missed the mark. I've sinned. I've done something, but grace gets me off. Like, how does that?
So when I would go back, right? So we're going back now. Let's go back 2 weeks. That grace is a supply of what God has provided. But grace makes, faith takes. That grace is a supply, and we realize that salvation is a gift of grace, but it's through faith that I receive everything grace makes. So what I'm saying is, like, in order for me to even embrace anything grace has provided, I must do it through faith. What does that mean? That means that I'm now looking through the lens of Jesus.
Got it. Yeah.
I'm realizing what he has done, and as a result of what he's done, I can now receive what God has provided. That process alone, it breaks the yoke. Like, that breaks the yoke.
Got it.
Like, the process. So I'm saying, it's not that I know people say, "Oh man, grace gets rid of it." No, grace made something, but you have to look through Jesus to access it.
There it is.
And looking through Jesus, right? That's the part you can't skip. That's the part you can't. That's what we said. You one look away. You can't look away from Jesus.
Right.
And I would say a lot of people, the reason why it's there's like a break in their loop because they want what grace provided without looking at Jesus to get it.
Right.
Right.
Which is a misapplied faith. That's not faith.
That's not it at all.
Got it.
It's like you want what's something. All of God's gifts are given freely through grace, right? So you want peace, right? I want peace, but I don't want to really look through what Christ has done for that peace to be received.
Got it.
Right? Like I don't want to realize that I don't have peace because of what I've done. I have peace because of what He's done, and I don't want to take on Him through me. I don't want to crucify who I am, right? Because a lot of times people are lacking peace because they keep magnifying themselves.
Right.
Can't nobody talk to me like that. Can't nobody say nothing to me like that. This shouldn't be happening to me like that. Well, if you look through Jesus, Jesus would say, hey, listen, man, in this world you will suffer persecution, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. That if they did it to me, why do you think that you won't have it happen to you? What is Jesus doing? Jesus is literally saying, bro, if I suffered as your savior, why would you think that you would have? So what is he doing? He's saying through looking at me, all of that pride that's keeping you, that's the truth, that all of this pride that's blocking you from peace cannot be stripped off. Because the reason you're lacking peace is because you have too big of an image of self.
Got it. Act now. One look away. It doesn't have to be a drawn out process when there has been an exchange already been made.
And I want to invite up to, right? Because looking at Jesus, and that's one of the things I'm like, man, that's so big that, on Sunday I tried to just break it down that like, no, like when we say look at Jesus, like what I just broke down is looking at Jesus.
Right.
Like if I am feeling condemned because of sin I've committed, I look at Jesus as He's redeemed me from that sin. Right. But man, looking at Jesus will also deal with your pride. Right. Right. He'll cultivate humility. Looking at Jesus will talk about whatever anxious thing that you just can't shake. Right. A lot of anxiety that people feel is from the loss of possessions. And looking at Jesus will teach you that, man, there is no way that your identity should be attached to anything that you own. That looking at Jesus, He would tell you, man, foxes have holes, hens have nests, but the Son of God has nowhere to lay His head. Like, no, as a disciple, you might have a homeless season, right? You may not want to accept that, but if you look at Jesus, He might tell you, like, if they take the house, don't worry about it, bro. You might say, man, they're not accepting me, so I'm nervous about the moment. Jesus will tell you, man, dust off your feet and walk and knock on the next door. Sometimes people won't accept you. Sometimes they didn't accept me. But if they rejecting you, man, don't worry about that. They're rejecting me. But they're really not rejecting me. They're really rejecting the one who sent me. Like you're looking at Jesus, and He's showing you how to deal with everyday life. And people, they want to just... They want to make His life seem one tracked.
Yeah. Yeah. In the time that we have left, let's see if this. Listening to what you just said, it brings me to this thought. It seems that people are trying to process promises, but they're looking through a lens of self. Like subscribing to a process instead of like act now and making that exchange is filtering His promise through an OU lens. Whereas it's more, you talked about self-effort earlier, where it's like, these are the steps I need to take in order to get to His peace. These are the steps that I need to take in order to get to the promise. And that type of thinking is you're filtering His promise, but you're filtering it through the lens of you, what you need to do in order to get to the promise, instead of looking through a Jesus lens, which says, I've already done that for you, just make an exchange.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find I had this cool example. I didn't do it. I want to say it was a couple weeks ago, but pretty much it's just talking about that I is in the middle of sin. I is in the middle of sin that truthfully, in every situation, Jesus is just trying to get us out the middle.
Yeah.
That 99.9% of the things we deal with is because I have become too big.
Yeah.
That I have literally made myself bigger than the Christ I gave my life to. And when you become big, oh no, like there's no end to what can happen, right? Like that is the center, right? That is the, I'm trying to find it because it was pretty cool, but it had a bunch of words like crime has I in the middle, right? There's a bunch of really bad words that have I in the middle when you yeah, I'm trying to, it's a laundry list. I'm trying to find it. People are like, what in the world? Yeah, they all are there, right?
That's good.
I can't find it right now. I'm going through like weeks worth of notes, but essentially that is what Jesus's message was, that Galatians 2:20, that you were crucified with Christ, that it's no longer I who live, but I live now through Jesus Christ, through the one who gave his life for me. And it's amazing how peaceful life becomes when you really, really practice the art of lowering yourself and exalting him. And when you look at whatever problem you're facing, every situation you have, and you just take yourself out and you say, you know what, it's not about me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about me. And when you do that, man, that is, Satan hates that.
Yeah.
And
I think that's why in those moments anxiety is so heightened, and the sense of or the feeling that you have to respond quickly or do something now, that pressure is heightened in order to get you not to take the time to do that or to consider that. I think it was in Wednesday night Bible study, Wednesday night 7:00, our interactive inductive study Bible studies. I think it was last week. You said what we have to embrace more is the grace and mercy that's provided when you need the time to start considering these things the right way, right? I think,
oh yeah, that's so strong.
Yeah.
Because grace is multifaceted, right? And I know I keep using this word because it's like I'm just trying to mature us, grow our understanding of the faith. And grace is multifaceted. A functionality of grace is mercy. And mercy is getting the good that you don't deserve, right? And I'm saying that because many people are living in a space of mercy, and they're not aware of it.
Right.
And it's like, no, this is God is covering you.
Yeah.
So
how should we use mercy properly? Like I think many bad decisions are made because of in a moment, it seems like there's so much pressure. I have to act. And in me acting, I haven't gotten myself out of the middle. I haven't brought Christ in. So how should I use grace or mercy in that moment?
I think understanding mercy or a frustrating grace or misusing mercy, right, is the byproduct of thinking God has changed. I think that when people start to think that God has changed, then that's when that starts to take place. But when you realize God hasn't changed, like God hasn't changed, he hates evil, he hates sin, he hates these things. For some reason, people have received mercy or grace as though God has a different outlook on these things. No, he doesn't have a different outlook. like we talked about on Sunday, he feels the same way. He just put all the penalty on Jesus. So I think that when you realize that no, God still holds that same level of standard that he held when he was dealing with Moses, when he was dealing with Joshua. He's still it's the same God. We're just living in a covenant that changes how he relates to his people. But he's still the same God. And I think that is where you start to now realize that, no, I still want to please God. So, if you think that God has changed, it can lower. If you're not living as though there's things that God hates, it can say, oh, no, you can make you feel like you can start to think that he's okay with what he's not okay with. Right. And he's not okay. Like you're just happen to be alive during a dispensation underneath a covenant that like the penalty for what's happening is continuously being received by Jesus, right? That man Jesus bore the weight of what is taking place, and I think that is actually the root, right? The root cause, because the truth of the matter is, to say, and I tell like no cards. I'm giving nobody no cards. I don't give nobody no passes, because I know how the Holy Spirit deals with me. So for you to say that you're unaware, for you to say that you're unaware when God's like, yo, like this has been enough. Right. That's a lie. Like he is constantly fathering us, and he's constantly speaking to us. The only thing that can keep you going when God is giving you a stop is you're literally thinking to yourself that God has changed, that God is okay, that God is approving. None of that's true. Grace didn't change God's mind about things he hates.
That's good. Right.
Right. God has not changed, and he's planted in all of us a desire to want to please God. Right. And man, it's about knowing when you're satisfying your own flesh. Like I know we're talking a lot about this living aware, but when you don't want to do it. Yep. You knew it. Now you're trying to make it seem as though God has changed how he deals with all mankind because you didn't want to do something. No, you ain't want to do it. And then you start painting this picture to other people, which that's the part I hate. Painting this picture to other people as though this is what God is now doing in the earth. What the heck? Like, what are you talking about, bro? Right. God ain't doing nothing different in the earth. Like, he has a covenant, which means that he's consistently involved in the earth according to the covenant he established. Right? Like it ain't covenant under review. Like he's not pausing and getting updates to seeing how we doing and changing how you gonna do stuff. No, man. There's these things have been established. There are the experiment's over.
The experiment is over.
The experiment's over. Yeah. And now I charge everybody who's a person of faith to own the cleanup work, right? Because we all in a way let it happen. Letting just stuff be said, things be done, and it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like I have never heard of a Christian doing or saying what you're doing or saying, but you're telling me that God's doing something new in the earth. All right, I gave you like a year. Right. I came back and your whole family is in pieces, and you don't know who you are anymore. And I'm looking at the what does the Bible, we don't, this is what it does says, judge the tree by the fruit that it bears, right? I went back, bro, and a year later, bro, nothing's edible here.
Right.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say that new thing that you keep talking about God doing, it was a covenant, and he's done it. Yeah. That this new thing that he was speaking of, that he'll make a way through the wilderness, his name is Jesus. Yeah. Right? That, God doing a new thing ain't a way for you to mask your fresh ambition, right? That's not it. Now, I keep telling people all the time that I don't tell them all the time. I used to say this like 3 years ago. It's okay to be ambitious. You don't have to say that God told you to do it. Right? Like, like it's okay to chase dreams, bro. Chase them. You don't have to say that God told you to chase all the dreams. Like, it is okay for you to want to be successful and do things that you want to do, that you like to do. I believe God, man, sometimes there's things that I do. Man, I'm gonna tell you this. Playing golf was something that God released me to do as a reward of being faithful. He said, "You can do it now, Brian." And what I'm simply saying is, man, that's okay. Like, God wants you to enjoy life too. I personally, I shouldn't say personal because it's bigger than personal. I'll talk to, man, we got to get out of here. But, man, I really took a very deep dive into understanding generational order when my father passed away, because I wanted to know what was my responsibility. And, man, it was very clear. I could see it in Scripture to how God walks through the generations. And I'm saying that to say that most people are putting more on their shoulders than God ever put on them. Like, God, like, man, like we see ourselves as the end of the line. Yeah. God's looking from heaven like, boy, there's 4 more generations of you. I just need you to do your job well. Yeah. That there is a generation that turns a family towards God. Then there's a generation that instills the values that family will need to serve God for generations. Then there's a generation that takes those values and articulates a vision to accomplish what God has said. Then there's a generation that actually does it. Then you know what the next generation does? Starts all over. Right. It's a cycle. And, man, so there's some people that are doing incredible things for God, and they keep thinking that anyway, I'm just saying that you can enjoy yourself and be saved too. God ain't said all that stuff, but that's okay. But people feel like, man, if God ain't told you, don't touch it. Well, some people get extra credit because they're doing great in what God told them, right? So they get to do some fun stuff, right? I don't know why everything you do for God is weighty and stressful and, not my will, but your will be done. At some point, your will and his way should align. You should start liking the things God's calling you to do because you have his heart. Not everything should be a struggle. Like, I don't get the picture. Right? You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's good.
Like, I don't wake up every day and be like, man, God, I hope you give me the strength to do this. No, man. Man, God has created such a fire and a desire for me to do what he's called me to do. That's how I know it's what he's called me to do. I think that what's more alarming is you keep doing things that you don't have a fire and desire to do. I think that's completely against Philippians 1:6, where it says God is working in you, give you the desire to do what's pleasing to him. At some point, you should like what he's called you to do. Right. And I hate it. I'm going to go ahead and say it because I think God hates it too. When people get up on stage and start talking like, man, I didn't want to be here this morning, but I thank God he gave me the strength. Then sit down, bro. I can't remember a Sunday waking up where I'm like, I didn't want to be here. You ain't never heard me say the words, I am so excited. What is wrong with you? Like, how much of the world are you consuming that when God is alive in you, it's a struggle for you to respond to it? That's my question. Wow. No, I was trying to end this.
Good question. That's the question of the day.
And that's the point, right? We got to get to the root of the matter. Like, man, it's a bunch of saved people doing a lot of suspect things and they're misinterpreting what a relationship with God looks like. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, that's not it at all, boss. And we about to pull back the sheets. No, all of that was a lie. Yeah. They set it up because people clap. And it's like, bro, what do you... Yeah. My daughter heard you say that mess, right? Right. That's what I be thinking.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I really am very conscious of how Amber hears the gospel. And I do not want her to hear it through the lens of this life of perpetual struggle and despair. Yeah.
Because we have the responsibility to pass on our faith to the next generation. We don't want them to be starting over or undoing wrong teaching. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Let's be responsible. That's good. Good. I hear you saying, live like you learned some lessons. Yes. This is the last Wednesday of the month. And as you go through it and look forward to the weekend, know that we love you. God does too. Attend to the things that God has said to us during this sermon series, and reflect back as far as you need to, so that we can move forward in faith, in grace. As you do all of that, know that we love you. God does too. Keep attending and keep being most blessed. We'll see you soon.